we should be live. I think we're live, but the Arkansas Razorbacks just really put the beat down to Louisville in that second half. 80-54, the Razorbacks, you know, you start off kind of sluggish, turning the ball over. You're playing down to your competition. I thought Arkansas really kind of kept Louisville, let them hang around by all the turnovers and fouls that kind of bailed the Cardinals out and got them to the free throw line. And then the Razorbacks do what they do. They adjusted at halftime. They did have a few turnovers early in that second half. Louisville pulled within 5 again. Then Anthony Black goes on a personal 6-0 run. Arkansas goes back up by double digits. And that was really the catalyst and the fuel for an overall 26-4 run to put the game out of reach. Arkansas went up 69-42. This was the kind of game you thought Arkansas could have against a winless Louisville team coming in, team that lost by 1 point 3 times against mid-major schools. And here the Razorbacks are kind of, like I said, playing their level for a while. And it was just a matter of time. Who saw Anthony Black, by the way, coming into today, 18 points in the first 3 games. He goes off for 26 points. He's 9-11 from the field. Bless my eyes, but he was 3 of 5 from 3, 5 of 5 at the free throw line. I thought they shortchanged him on the assist numbers. He was 6 assists, 3 rebounds. I thought he had, 3 steals. They may have given him 2. But his defense was suffocating. He really understands how to play at that end of the floor. And you look at the turnovers for Arkansas, he had some there. He had some mistakes. He had 3 turnovers and maybe 3 or 4 more times that it looked like he might turn over, and Arkansas was able to recover loose balls. And this continues to be a bit of a problem for Arkansas, but they ended up finishing – they turned the tables in that second half, ended up finishing +6 in turnovers, +10 when you look at points off turnovers. So even though it was sloppy by both teams, that's the second game in a row where Arkansas has been plus double-digit points and turnovers. And then I look at the fact that Arkansas is +22 in the paint, points in the paint. This is where this team has been dominant. And so again, you look at Louisville, you don't have sympathy for a team like this coming in. You can't afford to do that. Eric Musselman's now 3-0 in tournament format events. In regular season, we know Arkansas won the Hall of Fame Classic last year, 2-0, beating Cincinnati and Kansas State. Not in that order, but that's what they did to win that Hall of Fame Classic in Kansas City. They start off 1-0 in Maui, a very good Creighton team. I watched Creighton really have a big second half. You talk about a big second half against better competition. 2 ranked teams, 10th ranked Creighton takes out 21st ranked Texas Tech. It was a tie game at halftime. Creighton's starting 5 might be as good as any starting 5 in the country. When you look at what that team can do on both ends of the floor, Arkansas is going to have its work cut out for it on Tuesday. But you had to win game 1, and I thought Arkansas again. The Hogs didn't just take care of business. You put a team down like that, and you step on their throat. And Arkansas thought might be in trouble of letting Louisville hang around, and then maybe kind of eking out an 8-10 point win, and when in fact Arkansas won going away by 26 points. And that's what's going to send you into that next game. Nick Smith Jr. is with the team. It was great to see him. I knew he wasn't going to play. The other side of that is, well, how animated was he during timeouts and after big runs? Really excited for his teammates. He looks like a guy who's hungry, wants to be out there. You can only imagine how good Arkansas is going to be. I'm not saying that I expect he's going to play in this event. Actually, based on everything I've heard, probably not. But you never know. He's gotten better. He's improved. I know that. And someone whose health, when you look at it, you start thinking, well, maybe they can slide him in and get him here in this event. Again, don't count on that. I don't expect it. But how good can Arkansas be with Nick Smith Jr., who's a 3-level scorer? Today it was Anthony Black, who was really a 2-level scorer. He was getting it done from 3 and then getting to the basket. I really saw him be assertive, playing on the ball and off the ball. There was one possession when he started one of those runs for Arkansas. The shot clock was at 7 seconds. Arkansas inbounds in the backcourt. He took it straight down the pipe and got to the rim. And so this is the kind of aggressiveness you want to see from an assertiveness from Anthony Black as a scorer, not just a passer. He, is back on track now as a facilitator, by the way. The previous game had a season-high 5 assists. He escalated that to 6 today. We got to talk about Ricky Council, who's led Arkansas in scoring in every game. Coming into today, he didn't, but what an effort he had. 15 points, 4 steals to lead the way there, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. So stuff the stat sheet. Big game for Ricky. And how about the Mitchell twins? This is a game where Trevon Brazil's coming in averaging a double-double playing off the bench. And he kind of shrunk today. Reminded me of that Texas game when I was in Austin. He had, I think, 1 basket, 1 rebound. Today he doesn't score in the longest stretch of the game and ends up with a rebound the last time I looked at the stats. And so you saw the Mitchell twins both step up. Makai's been in the starting lineup. Mikal comes off the bench and scores in double figures, but they combined for, going off memory here, I believe it was 17 points, 12 rebounds. I think they had 3 blocks, maybe 3 or 4 assists and a steal or something like that. But both of those Mitchells were really what the combination of physicality, length, and athleticism Arkansas needed inside, because Louisville kept packing everything in, daring Arkansas to shoot for 3. That's something else we need to talk about, because aside from Anthony Black, at one point between Ricky Council, Black, Walsh hit from distance, but when you added it up all together, Arkansas at one point was 8 of 20. You come into this thinking Arkansas doesn't need to take 20 shots from 3, but they were at 40% for a while, finished 8 of 22, so just under 40, but that's really good for an Arkansas team who we know wants to get to the basket. But I thought Arkansas did a good job throwing the ball in the high post to Devo Davis and Ricky Council, and then a cutter, and those guys finding cutters getting to the basket. Arkansas really did want to get to the rim in this game, and so even though they shot quite a few threes, they're still plus 22 in points in the paint, and that's how you dominate a team. You get your 3-ball rolling a little bit. You start minimizing those turnovers, which they did most of the second half. They fouled a lot in the first half, 10 of 15 free throws for Louisville, and really that was something that Arkansas was 7 of 10, so they were minus there. But now you look at the second half at Arkansas, it took forever for Louisville to get back to the free throw line. And that's how you don't play down your competition. You got to stop fouling teams to bail them out. You got to quit wasting your own possessions and giving them back to you in a game you should dominate. And so once Arkansas figured that out, I thought they got comfortable. Again, Creighton's going to be a much different animal. This is another game, that's going to be more resembling what a Texas brings to the table than anything Arkansas has seen to this point. And so I think, that's a fast turnaround as well, and we'll see how that plays out for the Razorbacks. But it's 2 top 10 teams going on it, and these are the kind of games you want early in the season. This is feast week in college basketball. This is a big time event for the Razorbacks. They can end up playing 2 ranked teams, depending upon how things go moving forward. But it starts with Creighton. Again, looking back at this game, Arkansas now has held all 4 opponents below 60 points scoring in games. They've held another opponent below 40% field goals. Louisville ended up 4 of 12 from 3, so over 30%, 33%. That's the best that any team's managed to do, being above 30% in 3-point shooting. But you'll take that because the Arkansas offset it and then some with its own 3-point shooting. And so, again, this is what you're supposed to do against these Louisville Cardinals. And I thought Arkansas, even though they let them hang around a little bit, that happens in college basketball. They went out and proved a point. Now I'm going to try to read some of these comments and get to some of these. I'm going to have to put my glasses on. I see some people commenting. Yeah, Texas did pound Gonzaga. Do you think Texas is considerably better than Creighton? They might be. Creighton's starting 5, though, I think might be as good as anybody's out there. The big man is a physical presence around the basket. You look at Shireman, who Arkansas recruited, the transfer from South Dakota State. He's like a 6'7", 6'8" point forward, similar to an Anthony Black. But here's a guy with range out to 30 feet shooting from 3. He had a double-double today for Creighton, by the way. And then you look at Trey Alexander, the guard from Oklahoma, who I saw multiple times in high school, one of the better players for Creighton, a starter in that backcourt. And then the Nimhard young man that played with Moses Moody at Montverde Academy. I got to see him play in person in high school as well. And though, their backcourt, when you look at Arthur Kaluma in the front court, another player Arkansas recruited, he's a projected NBA player, but just their top 5 guys, when I look at it, are maybe as good as anyone that's out there. That's debatable. It's certainly subjective. They may not have the depth that Texas has, but their starting unit certainly came to play. And if it gets into a grind game, which is what Arkansas probably wants, and Creighton, the way it defends, keeps the score down as well. Arkansas might find itself in a close enough game to find a way to put together, a win in the end. I think it's a fascinating matchup though, because with Arkansas, with Nick Smith out, you're still not really sure what you're going to get in games. I mean, who saw Anthony Black getting 26 today? I think Ricky Council had the kind of game you expect from him. Maybe Trevon Brazile gets back to the double-double ways in less than 24 hours, because today he was a non-factor. But you love to see what the Mitchell twins did, what the Mitchell twins were able to do. I think nobody saw that coming. Everybody saw Makai kind of earn that starting spot. But then his brother, Mikal, comes in and does damage too. Now, again, we need to pump the brakes just a little bit. This is not a good Louisville team, but they did have some size on the front line. They were physical, and Arkansas met that challenge. It took a while for Arkansas to kind of sharpen its efforts around the basket. There was a little sloppy for a while, and Arkansas missed some opportunities. I thought as the game wore on, Arkansas was really good, ends up shooting over 50% from the field overall, which is big time. And, Arkansas stepped it up again, limited it to fouls, limited the attempts for Louisville in the second half at the free throws, and Arkansas ends up getting to the line a lot itself, which has been a little bit of a problem so far for a team last year that led the NCAA in free throw attempts. So this was a big win, I think, for Arkansas in the sense of, yeah, you're supposed to win this game, but you're on a neutral court. Anything can happen. You can have a really off night. I never felt like Arkansas was in danger of actually losing the game, but I felt like they were in danger of carrying Louisville to that finish line and keeping it kind of close. So this is, again, I've repeated it more than once. I think you needed that knockout punch that Arkansas delivered in the last 10 or 12 minutes. I mean, that really was impressive. No matter how bad the other team is, that's what you got to do. You can't carry them to the finish line. You got to knock them down. And then you go into Creighton saying, okay, we're ready for this now. We got some confidence. Are we a better three-point shooting team than last year? I saw that. That remains to be seen. Arkansas really struggled last year from three. I mean, Anthony Black was 3 of 5 tonight. That's really good from his position because he plays on the ball a lot, and teams are already packing in zones, giving him cushion, daring him to shoot. The last couple of games, he stepped up and taken shots when teams gave it to him, and he hit a couple, one in each game, so he was kind of ramping up to this, I guess, but he hasn't been very efficient. Tonight, man, the efficiency was outstanding from Anthony Black everywhere. Perfect at the foul line. His only 2 misses were from three, 60%, 3 of 5, and everything else he got at the rim and finished those. Earlier in the year when he was getting to the rim, sometimes he'd finish, sometimes a little short, just a little off. Tonight, I really liked, and I liked his decision-making. A couple of times he went from wing to baseline, little hesitation. Sometimes he backs that out. Instead, after the hesitation, he went ahead and got into his finishing move, got fouled one time, got to the free throw line, finished another basket. So these are the kind of things he needs to be a threat to score to really keep defenses on their heels because they're going to continue to pack things in. And again, Jordan Wall stepping out and hitting a couple of threes. I thought that was big. Ricky Council hitting threes, but doing other things that he does so well. I like some of the two-man game when Arkansas put a guard in that high post, elbow to elbow, and turning and making passes to guys cutting either behind the defense from the dunker spot or just cutting down the lane from the wing. And so those are things that, based on what the other team's doing, when they're matching up with you, you look at how their defense, what alignment they're in. Musman's one of the best in the business at not only game planning, but in-game adjustments. And so Arkansas found ways to attack. When you're not a good shooting team, you have to do that. Now, tonight, again, Arkansas shot a lot from three. Guys were knocking them down respectably. And so you're going to take that, and you certainly love being plus 22 points in the paint. That means you dominated pretty much everywhere. And once you fix the turnovers and fouling issue, it was a matter of time before you won this game like Arkansas did. What happens if we lose tomorrow? That's the question. If Arkansas loses tomorrow, they're 4-1. They've lost to a top 10 ranked team. And then they'll play a good opponent in the consolation bracket, or I guess a consolation game in the championship bracket would be the third place game on Wednesday. And you've got a couple of ranked teams, Arizona, San Diego State. You've got an Ohio State team that came into this tournament unbeaten. Cincinnati was the only team out of 8 that came in with a loss, 3-1. So everybody's respectable in this field. Certainly, if Arkansas loses to an outstanding Creighton team, who I heard one ESPN commentator, Jay Billis, say today they had the kind of starting 5 that could be a Final Four caliber. Sometimes you need more than that, being that good in your top 5 to get that far. But I'd have to agree with him just based on that. And I was already thinking that actually before he said it, just how good that unit is. Texas Tech's a tough defensive team. That was a battle. It's turned Creighton over a lot early in that game. Then Creighton settled down and started playing to its strengths and really dominated that second half. And I just think this is going to be an outstanding opportunity for Arkansas on Tuesday against an outstanding opponent. You win a game like that, that's a resume win. Arkansas doesn't have a resume win right now. I mean, you're 4-0. You're going to take that, held every opponent under 60. You're blowing teams out. That's good in some way on your resume, but quality wins, quad one win. That first opportunity, by the way, is tomorrow. This is a quad one game, win or lose. It doesn't. It's not awful on your resume to lose a neutral site game to a team like Creighton, but boy, it sure looks great to add that because we know resume is all about the full body of work. It doesn't matter if it's November or March before you get into postseason when you get these wins. And I think Arkansas has a huge opportunity. Both teams do, obviously, to pick up a quad one win. Uh, this is a good point. Someone just said, one thing that's better to this point than last year is our chemistry. This is so true. I talked about it so much last year. I'm glad someone brought that up. Last year, Arkansas was ranked top 16, top 15 coming into the year. They won a few games, I think, started 8-0. They were clunky the whole time, though. They looked disjointed, disconnected, but they were 8-0 against a soft schedule, and they climbed into the top 10, number 10, and then they got blown out by OU in a neutral site in Tulsa, lost in Hofstra at North Little Rock, and then next thing you know, they tumble out of the rankings. They lose their first 3 SEC games. They were disconnected, disjointed. The rotation had to be tweaked. We know the rest is history. Musselman's a master at doing that because he had done it 2 years in a row. So I would have to agree to some degree, to some level, that this team's got better chemistry right now than previous teams have had because the eye test tells you that. Was Arkansas perfect? No. A lot of turnovers early. Again, kept Louisville off the ropes. But at the same time, there's a defensive chemistry that's unmistakable to this point. And that's where it always starts with Musselman's teams anyway. And those were the areas where I thought Arkansas looked maybe not fully broken, but really bend but don't break on defense. Last year when they were kind of clunky and disjointed and disconnected, and it ended up costing them when they lost all those games. So I do think this team defensively has a lot better chemistry. I mean, you look at Anthony Black and Devo Davis. They are tough on that defensive end, man. They get into folks. There's some high IQ when you look at Anthony Black getting deflections, jumping up and just grabbing a steal, just timing a guy's pass and reading where he was going with that pass. Different things he does, deflecting the ball off the other player and out of bounds when the sideline or the in line is an extra defender. He understands how to play those situations. And then you look inside, whether it's Trevon Brazile, who was a non-factor tonight, but it was the Mitchell twins. They were physical. They were blocking shots. They were snatching rebounds. They got a little better, a little more efficient around the basket. Hey, when you're dunking the ball, I think Arkansas had 4 consecutive possessions that ended in a dunk in that big run. That's what you want from your bigs, is to go in there to make a statement, not to be soft, not to lay it up when you can dunk it, but to send a message. And I thought the Mitchell twins really rose to the occasion tonight. I mean, I'm not shocked that Brazile had the kind of game he did because I saw it at Texas. If you go back to Europe, he was really good shooting the ball, but he wasn't as physical, not as good on the glass the first 2 games. The staff challenged him much better in the next 2. After the Texas exhibition game, when he basically had just a really bad night, they challenged him again. He's averaged a double-double. A little bit of a step back today. Arkansas, I think the good thing is you win this game without arguably your best player to this point, averaging a double-double. And over a block a game, shooting 50%, 40% from 3 and 80% from the free throw line. You love those shooting splits and you love those stats. It just wasn't there tonight. So you hope this is a wake-up call because Arkansas needs Trevon Brazile against Creighton. I think they're going to need him to be closer to the 14 and 10 guy with those shooting splits than what he was tonight. When do we expect Nick to play? It's a great question. I keep saying it. I've not felt like he's going to be available for this tournament. 3 games in 3 days. I know he's improved. I know he's not fully practicing to this point. I just don't see it for this event. I guess something could change there. I still believe, and I said this on Pig Trail Nation this weekend, and I'll say it again. I really think there's a sweet spot somewhere in between when Arkansas gets back. They've got one more game in late November against Troy on the 28th, and they get in their December games. I think it's somewhere, there's a sweet spot somewhere there in that late November, probably early December. A lot of rumors going around that he's not going to play this year. Other rumors it's going to be January when it's SEC time. No, I don't think those are true. I think he gets back much sooner than that. And by the time we look back on it, we won't be talking about Nick Smith Jr. missing most of the season or half of the season. I think, we're going to look back on it as, we wanted to see him from day one, right? But we're going to be glad that he got things right and got himself better so that he's ready to go. And right now Arkansas is 4-0. So you missing Smith. If you lose to Creighton without him, that's probably going to help other guys get better anyway. He's on the bench, he's watching, so he's learning as he goes here, even though he's not playing. And you get a chance to go 3-0. You go into Tuesday in the semifinals, a chance to go unbeaten. Move your respect and rankings up in a week's time, maybe to top 5. And if you don't go 3-0, let's say you split these last 2 games and get 2-1, that's a great trip for Arkansas. I think the realistic, the obvious 1-2 is as bad as it can be at this point because they've already won the first game. Nobody wants to see that, but even that is not a death knell because we've seen previous Arkansas teams get better and better, overcome early season November and mostly December and early January adversity. But they haven't played a schedule like this either this early in the year with these kind of tough matchups and ranked teams. And so this one will play out a little bit differently. I think it's also the toughest SEC schedule that Arkansas will have had under Musselman. So you combine the two, and it's really tough both ways for the Hogs. But that doesn't mean they can't win a lot because with those 11 newcomers, they had the foreign exhibition tour, which I think helped kind of speed them up. That Texas game was perfect. Doesn't count, but they needed that adversity. They needed that shock to the system. So I think they're on a fast track to continue to build on that chemistry. So even without Smith for a while, and even though the schedule's tougher, I think they're going to come out of this really well. How it ends up in Maui, we'll see. But they took care of business in game 1, and I do think, again, when I'm looking back at previous seasons, I'm not scared for Arkansas and Eric Musselman, regardless of how they finish this out in these next 2 games. And I do think, as Arkansas on the other side of Maui, you got the game against Troy. You get into December. You're going to play Oklahoma again in Tulsa. It's another chance to get revenge in that game and fix that. You get Bradley in North Little Rock, so you've got that North Little Rock game, which counts as it doesn't count on your resume and the net rankings as part of a neutral site game, but it's good to get away from home and play somewhere else as much as you can. I think it helps the team get acclimated, especially later on when postseason rolls around. Let's see. What else do we got here? Yeah, I think another point to make here, I want to go back to the Mitchell twins for a little bit because I've always wondered, are these guys going to play interchangeably? And it has felt like when you look at the rotation so far, not only preseason, but these first 3 games prior to today, it always kind of felt like maybe it was Mackay and Mikkel was coming in early in first halves, but maybe playing 5 or 6 minutes at the most. And you just kind of felt like Mackay. Today, Mikkel and Mackay was a good mix. Mikkel had a strong second half, good parts of the first half. And so I think now this is a new wrinkle. You're still waiting to see what Jalen Graham's going to do to be consistent. We know Kamani Johnson, what he brings. He brings toughness. He brings, a certain grit to the floor. He's a tough offensive rebounder, a great offensive rebounder, but he's a kind of player that you know what you're getting with him, and he plays to Musselman's expectations. So there's depth there. And then Brazil, to me, still the wild card. Consistency is going to be the key with him. How consistent can he be? But it's nice to know that now you've got more than one Mitchell twin you might be able to rely on. If one guy's having an off night, maybe the other guy steps up tonight. They were both on for the most part. And on a night when Trevon Brazil is having a subpar game, more than, subpar is maybe put it nicely and kindly, but to see the Mitchell twins in concert put up the numbers they did, that was huge for Arkansas. I thought Devo Davis, Devo, AB, and Jordan are our best defenders. That's a good point. When you look at, I mentioned Devo and AB before, they were absolutely nails in the half-court defense, even some in transition defense. But I thought, again, when you look at Jordan Walsh, he wreaks havoc. He's so long, that 7'3" wingspan, and, Musselman's called him a violent defender. But what I like about him is, he does everything he can to stay attached. Or if he fouls some. Now, he does foul some. Sometimes he gets out of position, and it's maybe you call it a frustration foul, but maybe just not making wise choices to get back in position, so he reaches. But he's a tough guy to score on. He's a tough guy to get by. Just based on his instincts. Sometimes he steps wrong. Sometimes he's in the wrong position. Those are things they're going to improve. But just instinctually, this guy wants to be a shutdown guy, and he's really tough. And again, I go back to Arkansas around the basket. I thought, the Mitchell twins, I keep saying Mitchell twins because they rose to the occasion, but I thought Arkansas, I even thought Ricky Council defended really well. He recovered nicely on some plays when Louisville got around the basket, got a block, got a deflection. He's sneaky good. The 4 steals, you see, he's sneaky good defensively sometimes. He's a work in progress. He's a guy that's a little inconsistent with positioning and staying attached, and maybe, sometimes I don't know that he realizes how good he's going to be on that side of the ball. Which it's great that Musselman's his coach, because I think he's going to help him understand that rather than later. But Arkansas's got a lot of stuff working for it to its advantage defensively. Again, keep getting to the basket. Arkansas's got to be much better than it has been getting to the free throw line. There was some good stuff there tonight, and later on it worked out. But I think in some of these games where it's going to be much closer late, you not only have to execute at end of games, but other teams you're going to get to the line, and you got to knock those shots down. Arkansas's been really good at that under Musselman, and I haven't seen enough good in that way to feel confident that this team's going to take care of business at the line in a tight game. When you're down to a 1 or 2 possession game, 3 or 4 minutes left to go, the free throw line is huge. And Arkansas, like I said, has been better than its opponents in the last couple of years. It remains to be seen if that works out that way. They may be in a situation like that against Creighton, and we're talking about this 24 hours from now about either that they cashed in and made it work, or they didn't, and that's part of why they lost. So we're going to learn a lot more about this team moving in the next couple of days. We're getting close to 30 minutes. We're going to cut it off right around 30. I do, kind of want to circle back to a couple of things when I look at this field. I've talked a lot about Creighton. Arizona is one of the top offensive teams in the country. 105 points per game coming into this event, shooting crazy over 60% from the field. This is a team that's number one in a lot of categories. Number one in defensive rebounding. So it's not just offense. So that's a top 15 ranked team, going to be a formidable opponent if Arkansas were to see Arizona later on. The only way Arkansas could see any of those 4 teams on the other side of the bracket is on Wednesday. So obviously Creighton's tomorrow, so that'll be it. But you've got San Diego State, who's been a really good mid-major, typically ranked now just about every year. This is a solid basketball program. Top 20 team again this year. They've got 2 or 3 guys that are really good, probably could play for anybody. And then other guys in support that make that an outstanding team, well-coached team. So, you look at those teams. I mentioned Ohio State. They're always good in basketball. Even this time they're not ranked. They're not as good as they have been, at least in perception early in the year. But they're unblemished right now, and this is a team that's got players. There are no slouches in this field. And so regardless of what happens tomorrow, Arkansas is going to play a quality opponent. I wanted to go through some of those teams just a little bit. And I think when you get on the other side of this is different for Arkansas again, this early in the year to play this quality. Usually they're playing cupcake into December. That's not the case right now. And I think that benefits the program. We're going to look back at South Dakota State probably at the end of the year, a 25 to 30 win team, that's going to probably win the Summit League again. And end up being in the NCAA tournament. Now that's not going to necessarily be even a Q2 win. It might be because it was a home game, but it's still going to be something that helps that team, helps this Razorback team a little bit on the resume, but also the fact that you kind of stair-stepped. You started the first week 2-0 against teams ranked in KenPom's in the 200s, the low 100s with South Dakota State. So you stair-stepped a little bit. It's hard to really gauge what Louisville is other than 0-4, and they got a lot of holes in that roster right now. Not a very good team, but you face a little bit of a different challenge. There's more athleticism, size, and probably some quickness that you didn't see in the first 3 games. And so I think Arkansas jumps into the deep end now. I mean, you're going into Game 5 4-0, but you're playing a team that resembles more of a Texas than anything you've seen. And that's why the Texas game is so good, because you had that adversity, you fell apart in the second half in a game that you were kind of in it up until halftime against a better team. And Texas is a better team. Now jumped in, beat Gonzaga, now in the top 5 in the country. But at least you've got that shock to your system. You may get another shock tomorrow, but your chances of growing from that and maybe understanding it at a point where you're in the game and it's teetering, of keeping yourself in the game and not letting that snowball get out of control. And that's what happened at Texas. We'll see what Arkansas does against Creighton. We're not going to make any predictions here other than you've got 2 top 10 ranked teams in November. Who's not excited about that? I know Razorback fans, um, Hog fans right now are excited about basketball. The football team's finishing on a positive note, got bowl eligible, and now you're going to turn the page into basketball where you have to go back to the Nolan Richardson days when Arkansas was a force, nationally relevant every year, and borderline a blue blood and elite. Eric Musman's recruiting, and he's getting on-court results that match that. That's not going to change against Creighton, win or lose. Okay, that's not going to be not true anymore, right? But these are the kind of games you savor. These are the kind of games where you go, Arkansas is a basketball school again, a damn good one. And again, you just signed 2 5-stars. You've had 5 5-star signees in your last 2 classes, your last 5 to come on board, and now you're showing results on the court. That continues to be the case for Arkansas. And so, you're going to look back at Maui at the end of the year and think that this was a big help to Arkansas, no matter what the record is coming out of it, because I guarantee Eric Musman will make sure that it is, win or lose. All right, Hog fans, good to be with you for my first YouTube live for a post game after a Razorback game. Just by myself. This was fun. I don't know the technology. I hope it worked. I saw comments, so I hope it was good for everybody. And we'll see you again tomorrow. It'll be much later. Arkansas plays Creighton at 7 p.m. Central Time. That's on ESPN. We're going to come on just a few minutes after the game is over. But I'm, looking forward to being back with you and talking Razorback hoops in just over a day from now. See you then. I don't know how to end it. How do I end? Somebody tell me. I need a comment. How do you end it? You hit the X?